What if you could restore balance, reduce pain, support your body's natural healing without drugs, without medications, without any side effects other than excitement and joy? What if your body was brilliantly designed to heal, but when there's a flow of energy in your body, there's a disruption of that flow. That's where pain and illness can take a hold of your body. That sounds kind of woo-woo, doesn't it? Because we've been all trained to take the pill if you have pain. But what if there's another option? Well, today I'm really excited that Brendan Legel of Alternative Therapies, he's the COO of First Alternative Therapies, is in the classroom because we're going to be talking about the power of frequency healing. Yes, I use the word healing when using the word frequency. I know that sometimes that's a big no-no, but I'm saying your body can be restored to health. I'm a living example to that, and I am sure that Brendan Legal, as he comes into the classroom to share his wisdom, will share some of his stories as well of people that he's helped restore back to health. Are you curious? If you're curious, then go get your pen, your paper, because we're going to take lots of notes and we're going to learn and grow together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is the first time you're in the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, as you know, one of my favorite products and one that I have in the classroom under my Shop Now bag is the Avazzia. I've talked about it. I've talked so much about how this kept me from surgery, how this has kept me from excruciating pain after a car accident or muscle spasms or a cold or whatever it is. This is what I go to in my medicine cabinet when some people might take pain medications. This is my medicine cabinet all in one. But there's more. There's different kinds of frequencies. And I'm excited that on November 1st, Brendan of First Alternative Therapies is going to be there not only to share about these different healing modalities, but also to help you sample these amazing healing modalities. So today, Brendan's going to be talking about Avazzia, axiom hydrogen therapy, which is molecular hydrogen therapy. There's pulse electromagnetic frequency, which I also sleep on every night when I go to bed. There's also Therasage that they've combined forces with different kinds of red light in kind of that kind of frequencies. So if you're curious, just know that you're in for a treat because it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge. And I am so grateful that Brendan Legal of First Alternative Therapies is here to do just that. Welcome back, Brendan, to the classroom.
Perfect to be here. I'm so happy.
Yes, I'm glad that you're here too. Okay, so as I announced that you're going to be one of the speakers at the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease on November 1st, 2025 at Space Coast Health Foundation in Rockledge, Florida. What is your purpose? What is your mission when you come to meet all the wonderful people, the sellout crowd, the sold out crowd that is in there? What is your mission, your main goal as you come to this event?
Well, primarily, as always, it's to help people. You know, the best thing we can do is we can inform, we can give people the ability to sample and experience and have a demonstration there about all the different technologies that can slot in to act as solutions for problems that often don't have a closure point or a cure. Um, I also think that besides helping and informing, that we get the luxury of being a part of the journey for a lot of people's recovery. You yourself talking about the Avazzia acting as a recovery tool. I find that uh, through various different means, we've always slotted in and discovered and developed and manufactured and helped bring to light a lot of different aids and tools that can really make a huge impact for little to no risk. And that's where we kind of niche ourselves in this, you know, ecosystem, right? We provide solutions that often are unreal and kind of snake oily, right? If you were going to have a conversation with someone and say that frequency is healing, you know, that's a it sounds a little woo-woo. But if you were going to have a conversation and say, look, the same person who invented the graphing calculator, who created a significant amount of chips for Texas Instruments, who designed a biofeedback, reactive circuit system. Well, if we can make a connection, have a conversation with your nervous system and actually got your body to work naturally like it should, and bypass a lot of the errors or orchestrated and optimized how the body worked, well, then we're not as woo-woo as it sounds. We're actually on the cutting edge and the frontier of technology, one of the most researched frequency devices in the world. So we tend to take the perspective that science and healing can be combined into one, and that we can pull from these technologies that are on the periphery and make them a core basis in the new paradigm of medicine. And that's what we're trying to really establish is this new paradigm of thinking, hey, maybe the pill isn't the first answer. Maybe the primary reactive triage that you're going to in an urgent care isn't necessarily the best thing, right? Maybe we can pull in and use technology as a zero risk, very positive interaction to help. And it's not just the Avazzia, it's not just the reactive microcurrent, right? The Oxyum H2, the hydrogen inhalation therapy, as well as the exposure therapy, is a phenomenal technology that we can talk about as well. When we talk about how people have respiratory problems, how cancer develops and inhibits the functionality of the body, there's numerous ways where we can slot in and help people to be the best self that they can be.
Very good. Very good. So I love all the different healing modalities. And I said, are you going to surprise me at the event with a new technology? Possibly. So there may be more that you're in for when you purchase your tickets. And by the way, if you purchase your tickets before October 1st, you will get $25 off your admission. And that's for VIP or your regular admission. So act today. And for two of you, or if you would like to attend and money is an obstacle for you and you want to attend this event, I'm giving away two tickets. So text me at 407-373-5959, or you can email me. But make sure you can attend on November 1st the entire day. We start at 8 o'clock in the morning. Even though the event starts at 9, we open the doors so you can start the process of your journey towards natural healing. But we're going to be talking about integrative as well. It's not just, you must put a lotion in a potion, right? If you have something wrong with you. It's not about that. It's about looking at what your body needs in order to achieve what it needs to achieve to be healthy. So, Brendan, whenever I have a conversation with you, and I apologize if it comes across, I've known you for such a long time
Yep.
that I mean, I attended your high school graduation party, and I've seen you reach these milestones. But now, as COO of First Alternative Therapies, did you think that this was going to be your journey? Did you think that this was the journey for Brendan Legel?
I mean, everyone has their own journey. I'm glad to be a part of this experience in life so far. It is always humbling to have people know me for a long time. In fact, I always like to say the longer you know me, the more the longer you know someone, the more you get a picture of them, the more you trust them, and the more you'd find out if they're a bad person or not, right? So, we've been, I'd like to say First Alternatives has been around for 13 years now, 14 years
Mhm.
now. So we've been in the industry for quite a while. Uh, did I know that I was going to end up doing this? No, I went to school for engineering and robotics, and very technical. Side note on what to do and how to do things. And when the opportunity came to kind of work with my family and make the company grow and add a very thorough supporting foundation of science and literature to a lot of what we do. I seized the opportunity, and now we have, I mean, now we're having classes every month, and we have a whole kind of a neuroelectro institute developing. So we're looking forward towards that line work of that. But did I see myself in this? Ever since I was a child, the technology has influenced my life. I when I was younger, I had an adverse reaction from a drug called Singular, and it left me debilitated, both on a respiratory perspective, but also on having junior arthritis when I was 10. Just the side effects alone almost causing partial paralysis. And one of the things that, you know, came to my mom when she was working and she discovered the Avazzia technology was that I could mitigate for the pain and help restore the functionality of the spine, right? And in doing so, I was able to get off of the Singular drug, which was a respiratory aid at the time, without having the side effects. I was able to be energetic, exercise, and go out and actually be a kid. And there was a time for about 3 years where I was debilitated, just absolutely crushed by what should seem like a fair exchange, right? You take a pill, the pill works, right? And there's no cost to you. But that's never the case. A full body solution is a full body solution, right? It affects the entire body. And so when we take pills, when we do certain things and actions, we often ignore the side effects and consequences of those levers that are being pulled pharmacokinetically. And in my personal life, I was almost, you could say, set aside in my heart something like a place in my heart to where anyone else going through a similar interaction, whether it's Singler, whether it's morphine, whether it's Vicodin, whether it's any type of drug that they're taking, that they think that this is a bifurcation. I either take it or I don't, and I feel the consequences of that. Well, maybe there's a solution for you. Maybe there's a protocol. Maybe we could develop a technology, and we have. We've found so many solutions, so many different mechanisms where we don't have to have this equivalent exchange, this consequential conversation of saying, well, you either take it or you die, or you take it or you experience something. We actually have solutions that often correct the trauma then and there, address it permanently, and then we can retrace and recover and redevelop, right? The Avazzia microcurrent, even if you have cancer, active or passive, if you have stricture from chemotherapy, so you have any range of motion that has been prohibited and inhibited, right? Say you have a frozen shoulder because you had chemotherapy and it damaged the nerves in the area. Well, you might think that's permanent or forever, and you've gone to physical therapy for months to try and restore functionality, but it just doesn't click. Well, the Avazzia can, in one session, completely change the standard of care, the standard of living for yourself, because we can restore the range of motion. We can correct for the neuromuscular damage that's inhibited those lower motor neurons from functioning, from actually firing correctly. And we can restore functionality in daily use to certain, stricture points in your body. So when we say, from a trauma perspective, we can help you recover. From a proactive perspective, we can help you avoid pills. From a corrective perspective, we can also balance the body. And this is where we say, give me a problem, I'll find you a solution, right? Because it's not about the concept that we're not a system. We are a set of systems put together. And if you notice, one of the things that First Alternatives first started doing, if you've been with us for a long time, you start to realize that we have a plan in mind, right? We always find solutions for problems that we see a lot. and then we integrate them. So when we first started, most of the problems were nervous system, right? When we thought about it, obviously everyone has problems, but for us, the things we saw was pain, because pain is a main indicative point. We see stress and tension, so tensegrity issues, so tension in the body. We always saw that as the body prohibiting and protecting. We saw scars and trauma. Now, we have a solution that addresses all three of those. But how do we address the respiratory system? How do we address the cardiovascular system? How do we address the intracranial system in a way that functionally provides in the body? And in each of these endeavors, we see that there's solutions that we slot in. So, for example, the Axiom H2 inhalation technology is a game changer for the respiratory system. The hydrogen molecule, right? It's the simplest element in the universe. It's a one-to-one, proton to electron exchange, right? It's the smallest atom in the universe. But it's also one of the most powerful because it acts as an extreme antioxidant. And so when we put it into the lungs, we can react and mobilize the alveoli in the lungs, the respiratory subsacs that actually draw in oxygen. We can correct the errors that are inhibiting their active sites. We can correct for the damage of smoking after years and years of trauma that you may have put into your lungs, whether it be dust, whether it be smoking, whether it be mold, whether it be irritants, all across the board, these adjutants that are inside the lungs themselves that are inhibiting the respiratory function can be corrected for. And that's one of the biggest solutions that we've found, right? When we said, hey, we have a system, we have a problem. And so the Axiom H2 is one of the things that we developed for that. Go ahead.
No, I want to add to it with the molecular hydrogen therapy that you're talking about, the Axiom. That was one of the products that First Alternative brought to one of my events that I did with Dr. Bradley Nelson for the first time, and they were exploring with that. And it took me a while to kind of like look into it, dive into it. But one of the things that I want to add to what you're saying is we've done a lot of work with Dr. Thomas Levy, with other doctors that talk about mitochondrial damage. And
Mhm.
mitochondrial damage is like the big buzzword, that you're hearing lately. How does molecular hydrogen help reverse this mitochondrial damage? Just through inhalation. I know that at an event that we did, a woman had tinnitus. She put the ear goggles and she didn't even do the eyes, but she just did the ears. That's all she wanted to do. She had tinnitus for 6 years, and we were at the Beljanski conference, and man, after that meeting and encounter, the tinnitus went away. She said to me, "I'm going to come back tomorrow if I don't have tinnitus anymore." And I said, "That's fine." She came back. She said 6 hours. She didn't have it. She was going to bed. The next day, she came by and said, "If I don't have this tonight, or if tomorrow, I am buying my own unit." And I said, "But listen, you've had it for 6 years. You've experienced relief for 24 hours. What else example you need?" She goes, "I want another day." The other day she came back, and it was at the end of the day. She and I were face to face. We grabbed a hold of each other, and I said, "So how are you doing?" And she said, "I still don't hear any noise." And I said, "So which unit do you want?" And that was it was so nice to see that. Of course, she did it in 10 minutes with the larger unit, not the smaller unit. So of course you need to make adjustments. So let's talk about this mitochondrial damage that the molecular hydrogen Axiom H2 can do.
Sure. So, one of the things about cellular health that I always have to frame cellular health because we say mitochondrial, we say mRNA, we say DNA. There's a lot of buzzwords and I would say, uh, trigger words that people are using that they hope that intend to get a reaction there, right? And when we talk about an actual cellular health, we need to start with the outside in. So, not to give a biology lesson, right? But when you have cells, they have to pull things into the environment. They have to use osmosis and hydrolysis to pull things into the cell itself and push things out. So on that barrier, what you can say is that border, if you don't have a healthy border, you can't express. Your cell can't communicate with the outside, and likewise, the outside can't be tested by the cell inside. So when we talk about hydrogen therapy, Our goal is to improve the boundary of how the cell communicates because the cell has what we call pipelines into and out through the actual membrane. And if those pipelines are blocked or inhibited by spike proteins, protons, or any type of agent that would inhibit the functionality, the cell slowly crystallizes over time and becomes dysfunctional and corrupted because when it ever can't communicate with the environment, it starts to optimize inappropriately for that environment, right? And so if we can throw a molecule that's extremely electronegative, extremely reactive into the mix, this antioxidant that bonds and decouples and slots out different agents, we can clean that membrane. We can restore the functionality of that membrane in real time. And as that membrane opens up and starts to react and stabilize, different natural processes that are DNA and mRNA pulling, exchanging back and forth can actually commit and process. For example, apoptosis can occur, right? Which is the cellular suicide, as people say, when dysfunction commit and process. For example, apoptosis can occur, right? Which is the cellular suicide, as people say, when dysfunction. But also different environmental stressors. So it's, when we talk about the value of the mitochondrial side, we say, okay, if a cell has enough energy, it's going to do the right thing. But if it doesn't know what the right thing to do is, because the environment's so unknown, then you're going to be in a bad time. So hydrogen therapy from when we talk about a tertiary, so we're not a primary, not a secondary, but a tertiary benefit of the hydrogen therapy is that as it's in the bloodstream, as it's mobilized throughout the body, it's optimizing and improving how cells can communicate. And when cells can communicate and learn from their localized environments, they can perform better in every action and every service, right? So when I say the primary is respiratory improvement, right? If you have a respiratory inhibition, if you have inflammation in the lungs, when you breathe in the hydrogen, it's going to be phenomenal. The secondary feature is cardiovascular. The heart is going to lower, the resting heart rate you're on the device is going to lower, you're going to be calmer, and it's going to be more beneficial. And then tertiary, you're going to have a lot of cellular improvement. Now, what you said was a thing that's not necessarily on label yet for testing, which is the tinnitus, which I can explain why that would be a benefit, right? If you have inflammation in the ear canal, if you have inflammation in a localized region that's either debris or irritation or any type of dysfunctional feature, maybe a dehydration of the localized line, we can actually put the hydrogen exposure therapy through the ear canal and into that canal, and it'll actually de-inflame and de-swell. It feels very passive. And it's so subtle, you won't feel or smell a thing. It's almost uh, I say it's the closest thing we get to that placebo line where it just works, right? But we can still test and say, hey, there's a test metric of this, like things are happening, right? Where it's very beneficial for the body. And we get so many cases where brain fog gets lifted because of the headphones, where ocular vision is improved because of the eye goggles, where sinuses decrease and deswell. So there's a lot of different use cases besides the inhalation. We just primarily say like, hey, if you're not breathing properly, that's probably one of the core problems that you would face. Let's address that first, and then we go down the line in terms of consequences and improvements that we can get.
And
But
and
yeah,
and, and Brendan, when you're looking at molecular hydrogen, is there any contraindication? Is there anyone who cannot do this?
so one of the fascinating things is if your body couldn't process the molecular hydrogen, your entire body would disintegrate instantaneously. Like physics wise, it is the most substantially integrated component in your body, right? So anytime you have a pH exchange or acidic exchange or any type of interaction, you're floating free hydrogen ions back and forth, right? So we're working with a fundamental force of the universe when we work with hydrogen. And we're also working with a fundamental component of how the body works, right? We're a hydrocarbon-based life form, right?
Mhm.
So hydrogen has to exchange back and forth with different carbon chains all the time. So we're just adding a cellular currency to the body so it can mobilize when necessary and interrupt the subprocesses that are, let's say, non-recurring.
Mhm.
And the healthy processes are always recurring. So oftentimes when we say that, you know, is there any side effects or consequences if we stay at the thresholds designed by the machine, so we don't overdo the hydrogen exposure, and we also don't and we also essentially don't inundate the body with it,
Hmm.
right? So we're never breaking that 8% threshold for
Hmm.
total breathing in. We never disrupt the ability for you to breathe. We
Hmm.
never, you know, poison you with the solution, right? Then we're always going to have a benefit. And there's no contraindications for people who can't take it. Now,
Yeah.
the FDA would probably say that any pacemakers and anyone who's pregnant, probably anyone with significant cardiovascular problems, should probably get sign off with the doctor beforehand. We're currently going under the approval process for the FDA right now, so that's
Hmm.
why I would preference that. That's
Yeah.
every device until tested.
Yes.
So, um,
So
but
that's
as
what
far as
what I'm hearing you say is that that is like customary procedure. You know, that
yeah,
these are the populations that are protected under the FDA
yeah,
unless they say you can do it.
well, and that's it. So there's even more of a substantial note is that the hydrogen really it's very hard for someone to have a side effect from the hydrogen therapy. In
Yeah.
fact, we've done I think more than 3,000 demonstrations this year, and we have. I mean, it's not like I think we've done more than 3,000.
Yeah.
We've not had a single reported side effect listed.
Yeah. It's been great.
So it's one of those things when you start doing the numbers you know, people can only say there's one in a million. We think that's very rare in the use case of that.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of the benefits of the technology and why we pick up things. We pick up things that work every time. They work the way they're supposed to, and they work consistently in that sub feature of how they should. And they don't harm you while they work, right? It's like if I had a hammer that hurt me every time I swung it, I wouldn't swing the hammer,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, it's a clear tool for you to utilize and employ.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to add here that there's a lot of it seems like there's a lot of machines out there coming from other places that are not as robust as the Axiom is. What I love about the Axiom, and I want to be very, very clear with all of you, what as you do your research and say, oh, what is this all about? I want to wait until you try the Axiom, look into the benefits of the Axiom because I was approached by another molecular hydrogen company. I don't know if I told you this. I told Michael this a while ago. I don't know if he remembers this, but they approached me. They come from Europe to China, and all you need to get it clear in Australia and other locations is it's cleared as an appliance, no different than a toaster. So
Mhm.
how is the Axiom different than the typical molecular hydrogen machine with some of the bells and whistles that you guys have added to Axiom?
Sure. So, to start with that conversation, let me preference. When we first partnered with the organization, the Axiom H2 organization, to work with them, it was because we substantiated both the science and the effect right away. The Avazzia microcurrent, the reaction microcurrent device, works with the nervous system, and we can test the functionality of the nervous system through impedance testing and mapping of different nerve cycles. And what we found with the hydrogen therapy is it cut our treatment times in half. And further from there, it increased the functionality of the integumentary system in the fascia by triple what it was previous in many cases and patients. So we came from a functional perspective saying, look, this works. We know this works. Okay. And then we adopted the technology. Now, once we adopted the technology, we worked very closely with both Matteo Johnson, who's the founder of Axiom H2, as well as his engineering team. And we had our own engineering team and we had our own preference and things to help improve the technology. And we've gone through, I think, two iterations so far in the last 3 years of having the technology. So we're always technically improving and we're always looking for the best ways to provide the hydrogen therapy and exposure. That being said, one of the things that makes the Axiom specifically different on the market is that we use what's called a proton exchange membrane instead of using electrolysis or using any type of risky or harmful gas production method. It does cost a little bit more. It does cost a little bit more in electricity to run. But the benefit of doing it this way is that we know we're producing a pure hydrogen gas without any negative, let's say, chlorine gas production mechanisms. I could create a hydrogen gas device with $1.50 in terms of equipment, right? Now, if I breathed it in for longer than 30 minutes, I might end up poisoning myself because the hydrogen gas is going to come with hydrochlorides, and that's going to because you have to put salt in the water with a penny. You take a penny, a piece of copper, you put it in. You're going to produce hydrogen gas as well as a salt mixture as the sodium bridge. What ends up happening is that you end up poisoning yourself because you're producing so many negative consequential chemicals that it inhibits the value of actually having hydrogen, not to mention the control mechanism of volume. So we have to be careful when we talk about the market and say, look, are they producing exactly what they're producing? Is it tested by a third party? Is it substantiated to the point where it operates? Now, we know we're tested by a third party and that we're substantiated. And we produce the gas at the level we say we produce it, and it gets down the tube, and it's functional and it's effective. We also have case studies to prove it's effective. Further from there, when we talk about the market comparison, our device doesn't require a significant amount of maintenance. We take distilled water, we put it in the top, and that's it. You don't have to put a reactive agent. You don't have to put lye or a chalk or some type of chemical into the agent to produce the hydrogen. It's just distilled water, which is pure. We don't allow for mineralized water because you don't want to breathe in the minerals. You don't want to breathe in lead. You don't want to breathe in other agents that could be in that water. So we keep it distilled. As far as, total maintenance goes, just putting the water in is enough to substantiate the total device usage. If you live in like a dusty or kind of like a pet-oriented environment, there's a tiny little filter on the bottom, like that's a cloth filter that you might have to change out every 8 months to a year, but very rarely. It's like a 3-minute job. You just click and then pop it in. But and then for runtime, our device can run for 24 hours straight. It can run for 3 days straight without stopping, right? And we've had numerous people do it. Now, is there a reason to run it for that long? Yes, many times there is. But there's also a reason, you don't have to run it that long.
Yeah,
But it's just a
what is the
clarification.
saturation? What is the saturation? Because you have three different units and each one has a saturation. Once you reach
So
saturation, are there any benefits outside of that?
yeah, it's a different treatment vector for sure. So when we talk about saturation, we have to first step back and say, why is saturation valuable? Saturation is valuable, and what is saturation? Saturation is like, hey, if I put hydrogen in a water, in a basis, in any type of environment, at what point is the chemical abundant enough to where it's not reacting with the actual substance, and then we're losing the gas inertly to some other subset or an external environment, right? That's saturation. Saturation naturally pulls back or reacts with the internal ecosystem to push out into the external ecosystem. So when our body is in saturation, it means we've had enough hydrogen where any radical oxide subgroups have been reacted and worked on, and that we have a supply of hydrogen in our blood, in our body, that's ready and active to actively react to currently produced radical oxide subgroups. Now, people might not know what ROS subgroups are, like hydroxyls and H2O2s and different problematic adjutants in the body. But they are one of the primary, triggers for cancer in a lot of theoretical subset bases because the ROS subgroups, they go in, they pull, they disrupt, and they harm and they mutate different cellular substructures. Well, if I had an agent that can go into your body better than vitamin C can, for example, and because vitamin C just acts as a protective layer and inhibiting, it acts as a decoy for that agent to react. If I actually have something that goes out and seeks these radical oxide subgroups and corrects for their inherent mutation or their inherent harmful nature, it'd be phenomenal. And that's what reaching saturation is, right? We reach saturation, any debt in our body of this oxidative stress is paid off. We basically go in and pay off your oxidative stress debt. Now, when you have a longer therapy, let's say once you reach saturation and you keep going, there's a different treatment therapy altogether. It's a different factor. Why? Because it's like someone who has a credit card. You paid off their debt, right? But they might spend too much. So you'll have to supply them a cash flow so that their spending doesn't accrue more debt. And that's why we say, hey, there might be a reason for you to use it 3 or 4 hours a day, right? If you know that you're in a, let's say, negative cellular health direction, we want to always provide you a lot of hydrogen to actually be able to compensate for this lack of, let's say, I say cellular integrity, but you could say financial integrity. There's two different lines to that, right? In the analogy. So oftentimes when we say the goal is saturation, if you're not dealing with a chronic or significant health disorder. If you're dealing with a chronic or significant health disorder, like for example, cancer and autoimmune diseases, you're going to want to use it longer. You're going to want to have a unit at home, because one therapy is not necessarily enough to reactively triage and address the problem.
Well,
If you
when
have,
you're bankrupt, putting one deposit into your account is
yeah,
not
it's
going to
not,
quiz. So yeah,
yeah.
with your analogy,
Right.
going with your
You're
analogy.
gonna if you have a negative statement on your balance, you want to provide a solution for that balance, but the cash flow problem, how you got there wasn't addressed, right? It's like people who get inheritance, right? Inheritance is one of the funniest things to me. 80% of people who get an inheritance within the first year, it's gone, right? Because it's not about getting a lump sum supply of resources. It's about how you use the resources, how you go cash flow negative, cash flow positive. The same analogy. That's a terrible analogy because finances scare the crud out of everyone, right?
Hmm.
But in the same token, cellular health should scare you too, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't know how much damage you're doing to your body on a daily basis by not sleeping properly, not exercising, eating terrible things, right? And it's like it scares us all to death, as one would say, right? So we want to provide these solutions that are non-painful. It's like you could be watching TV, you could be reading. That it's not a suffering like you don't suffer while on the device. It doesn't smell bad.
No.
It's just air that you breathe
Yeah.
in, and it's smellless, right? And so while you're on it, you can be doing your normal day work day if you have a desk in the office where you have it at, and you'll feel better for it almost immediately. Now, depending on the person, I would say saturation is always different, which is why you say, okay, well, we talk about saturation. How do I know I've reached saturation? Well, on your test, we say it's about 50 milliliters per pound. So if you're a 100-pound woman versus a 200-pound man, it's usually going to take double the time for the 200-pound man to reach saturation. Why?
Oh.
Because it's a physics-based problem, right? We have to get enough gas into the body to react to the pound of flesh, right? And so as we go about this equation, we see that we have different tiers of devices for different goals, right? So if you have a commercial unit, right, that's producing 2,000 milliliters of hydrogen per minute, right? That's going to get you to saturation for most people within 3 to 5 minutes, and you're going to feel significantly different. If you have the professional unit, which is 600 milliliters per minute, it's going to get you there in about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the person.
Mhm.
And then when we have the home unit, it's going to get you there in about 20 to 35 minutes per person,
Yeah.
roughly. I mean,
Yeah.
most people are between the weights of 100 to 250. So when we gear that, that's what that range that I'm talking about. Um, that's not to say that everyone is the same with the amount of oxidative stress in their body. No one has the same credit card statement. No one has the same financial statement. And likewise, everyone's body is personalized to their own individual metric, which is why hydrogen is such a phenomenally good therapy because it doesn't matter if you overdo it. If you overdo it, there's no consequences. In fact, it becomes a different treatment vector where as your body is producing problems, you address the problems, right?
Mhm.
And so if you have, once you reach saturation and you want to have a ready supply of hydrogen in the body, it doesn't matter if you have the 3,000, it doesn't matter if you have the 300, you're still just providing oversaturation or supersaturation for the body's overall functionality. So, when I say everyone should have a device at home, you really should have at least 300 at home because we go out. I mean, if you ever, it's like one of the things that recently have been blowing my mind is environmental toxicity. So, like, if you live near a highway, the regional air has been compromised. If you live in a city, the regional air is compromised, and there's actually toxicity in the air that you breathe in. Well, your body is being taxed and functionally inhibited for that exact usage, right? So you should always be using the technology at least once a week, just naturally to crush all those the chances and risk for the radical oxide subgroups to develop. And so it's very proactive in your overall health of your body.
And you guys have a place in Riviera, it's no, Deerfield Beach in
Oh yeah.
Florida that people can go and try it, or they can come to the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Dys-Ease. I want to encourage all of you, if you would like to try to get free tickets to come to the event, make sure that you can attend on November 1st, the entire day. Don't be texting me if you are not planning on coming, because we want everybody there. We want people to try these frequencies. We want the products. We want them to talk to the vendors and listen to the phenomenal speakers that we have at the event. You know, Dr. Joel Furman and Dr. Thomas Levy will be Zoomed this year. But everybody else will be there that you can ask questions and play with the equipment. And so I'm really excited and so proud. On that day, it's like friends coming together. It's a community full of love and curiosity. So I want to encourage you that if you would like 2 tickets, you can text me at 407-373-5959, or you can email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com. For those of you that want to learn more, that you want to just learn about all the information, go to whenyouneedafriend.com. If there's a pop-up there, you can click on it and it'll take you there. If you purchase your ticket before October 1st, you get $25. 2025, get $25 off, and you're able to, whether it's your regular admission or VIP that includes lunch and includes front row seating and all of those things. Just make sure that you decide what's best for you. But if money is an obstacle and you want to attend, my goodness, now is the time. 407-373-5959, or you can email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com. If you just want 1 ticket, then I'll pick the next person that I pull out of the winner's basket. A week from today, I will be pulling a name out, the name offering the 2 tickets. If they just want one, I will move on to the next person that I pull out of the the winner's basket. While you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, please go there to learn more, subscribe to the website, like and follow me on all social media, share this video with everybody. Say, hey, would you like to come with me to the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Dys-Ease? And of course, they're going to say yes. We have people coming from all over. I think right now the furthest one is Virginia, which I am excited to. I'm going to give a prize to the furthest one that comes to the event. So I think Virginia is right now the furthest, but I haven't checked lately. While you're at whenyouneedafriend.com, please check out all the different buttons, you know. And by the way, if you go on there and the pop-up doesn't go up, just go to workshops, and you'll know the workshop that you need to go to, and find out all the information there. You have the Shop Now bag. First Alternatives is featured in my Shop Now bag. If you go there and you say, "Oh, Lily sent me," you definitely get free. You get free shipping. Not everybody gets free shipping, but if you say that Lily sent you, you get free shipping when you purchase your Avazzia or the hydrogen therapy. At the event, I believe there's going to be a discount rate for the event. So I want to make sure that you know that this is going to be an event for you. It's to live for. You know, some places that you go to are to die for. This is to live for. The food will be wonderful. The people will be phenomenal. So it is an amazing day. Now go to the Shop Now bag and check out all the Lilly approved products that are there, including First Alternatives. They could be anywhere they wanted to go because they have had 3,000 events already this year. and we're not even at the end of the year. So that's a lot. That's a lot of events. So let's make it worth their while to come to our events, and let's learn more and get these treatments. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, a one-time donation of your time, your talent, your treasure. Like I said, just sharing this video with everybody that you know. Let them know that you want to start your journey towards natural health, figuring out what is deficient in your body. Is anybody chemotherapy or radiation deficient? The answer is no. Nobody is. But what are the deficiency? Let's become critical thinkers. Let's become our own MD, our own medical detective, and start our journey towards health and wellness so that you can give the body what it needs. Today, we have Brendan Legel. He's the COO of First Alternative Therapies. They also have a location in Deerfield Beach where you can go experience all these different treatments. So far, Brendan, we've talked about mainly about the molecular hydrogen therapy, which I believe is everybody is going to love. Now, I wanted to ask one question before we move to frequency healing, if that's okay with you, unless there's something you want
Sure.
to add.
No, absolutely.
And by the way, like I said, go to whenyounneedafriend.com and you can click on the blog. Whatever, if you are a subscriber, you have all of Brendan's information as well. Before we go into the frequency, you mentioned that you put in distilled water into your machines. Can you also do reverse osmosis? Because reverse osmosis has no chemicals or anything in there. Would that be an alternative for people that have reverse osmosis as opposed to distilled water?
So that's a very interesting question because when that specific question gets asked, it's usually because people don't trust the distilled water as a feature. Um,
It's
Distilled
also
water,
it's also in plastic jugs, so just saying.
well, plastic jugs that's non-reactive. So there's no,
Okay?
it's inert plastic,
Okay,
one.
good.
But two, um, when we talk about reverse osmosis water, it's distilled water is RO'd water, right? It's primarily essentially leached of any minerals. There's no possibility of any other agents or minerals or particulates in the substance. Now, it's going through a platinum membrane, which only allows for hydrogen molecules to go through anyways. So even if it's in the plastic jug to put in the machine itself, that's perfectly fine. The platinum membrane protects you from any production or plastoids or any type of PFOs from penetrating and permeating into the gas itself. We don't want you breathing that, obviously. Um, Oftentimes, people's RO machines aren't as effective as they think. We have sensors in our device that will flag people's water a lot, and it happens quite a bit. Some people, the machine works. In our experience, about half of people's RO machines aren't as effective as they think. It's still producing particulates, and it is not effectively eliminating those agents,
Interesting,
which
interesting.
you'd be surprised when we actually started diving into it and getting the calls saying, "Oh, I tried my RO water." We said, "Well, we provide a particulate meter, like a hydrometer, in the kit, and we have them test the particulates, and it flags for a high particulate load even after RO. So we immediately say, well, it's not doing as advertised, which is a huge, like when you think that you're getting X and you're getting Y, that's a problem, right?
Mm,
Um, yes, you could use your RO'd water, and the if the machine flags it, it flags it. We have 7 sensors in the device that test for
that's cool.
just specifically the water quality because we never want to be producing consequence or a negative side effect. And one of the ways that you can get that is if your water's poisoned or corrupted, right? So
Wow. Yeah.
it's important to us.
Well, another thing is this machine, the Axiom um, H2 machine. also can create hydrogen water. And I know hydrogen water is the latest buzz. Everybody wants to drink hydrogen water. So with a little attachment that comes with the Axiom, you can put it into your bottle and create your own hydrogen. And I don't want to dive too deep into that. You can razzle dazzle them at the event, but I do want to shift over to frequency because we're
Sure.
like running out of time here. I mean, I know that hydrogen is molecular hydrogen therapy. I think it's going to be the tool of the
It's a
future.
new emerging
Yeah.
field, and
Yes.
it's a new vector of therapy that's very hot right now,
Yeah.
right? Just like the hydrogen water, it's a different vector for therapy altogether. It goes through the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine,
Hmm.
and and the bladder, and so it's targeted and now,
Yeah.
right? Just like the hydrogen water, it's a different vector for therapy altogether. It goes through the stomach, the small intestine, large intestine,
Hmm.
and and the bladder, and so it's targeted in its approach, right? So it's a different treatment vector.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Okay, so let's talk about frequency. This is my Avazzia unit. I've talked about it before. It from head to toe, you just name one thing, and I believe that there's probably a treatment for it. So let's talk about frequency and the fact that everything is a frequency. Love is a frequency. The earth has a frequency. Depression has a very low vibrational frequency. So everything is a frequency. So for some people to say frequency healing is kind of woo-woo, which I would have said 13 years ago, um, I can understand. But when we learn a new truth about frequency and how that frequency is everywhere around us, let's talk about frequencies and how that helps the body. We have Avazzia, you have the PEMF machine, what else? Therosage. What else can you say about these technologies?
Well, so if we talk about frequency as this unknown, right? When we just say, what is frequency? Well, it's just a rate of exchange, right? A rate of execution, a rate of activity, right? It can be quite confusing to people because it's just like saying energy. What energy? Kinetic energy, chemical energy, physical energy, stored energy, biokinetic electrical energy. So it's a catch-all for something very specific, right? Frequency of love. It's like, what is the frequency of love? Well, we know what love is, right? Is it oxytocin production? Is it the social cultural connection, right? So there's so many complexities, but when you break it down to science-based healing, or I like to say physics-based medicine, right? It becomes a lot more simple. We provide the electrical energy that can charge the nervous system in an effective manner that's not too much charge and not too abnormal or alien for your body to perceive, but just right to your nerve's electrical functionality. And we modulate it so it's absorbed into the body without punishing the body's nervous system connections. So if we do all of that, it's called reactive microcurrent. If we can put a signal into the body, listen to how the body changes it, and work with the body, we're never in danger of over shouting the nerves, harming the nervous system, or triggering casual side effect. And what ends up happening is you feel a small tingle. You feel the neural pathway tingle up the line. And if you have nerve damage, it'll start to knit and work on those nerves to realign and connect and functionally restore their activity. And it helps almost everyone because everyone's nervous system is actively fighting for them. Your body is actively working really hard to make sure that you're as healthy and functional as possible. So if we give those tools, those active agents, the ability to do that job effectively, we can bring true healing to the body. And it's not a woo-woo thing. It's functional science. And it's more, I like to say it's more deductive than inductive. And when you take a pill, there's an inductive query. I like to say they're guessworking how your body's going to react to it. They're like, well, the pharmacokinetics is going to be this. It's like, no, the pharmacokinetics is random because your genetics are random. Your reaction rate is random. When you go to a hospital, they give you a cocktail of medicines that are supposed to all do one thing. And they slowly wane and increase the cocktail depending on the reaction, right? That pain's still there. Guess what? I'm going to give you a different pill. So with our device, you don't need to have a cocktail. It's customized to your personal nervous system, to your functional nervous system in a way that no other device, no other technology could be ever in history, which is one of the important things about this technology. It's one of the reasons why you have to try it. It's it's all words and speculation until you actually experience the technology and say, "Wow, my body works now. My body is functionally better. My knee that was hurting for 6 or 7 years, guess what? That's gone. Oh, okay. The
Plantar
nerve damage.
fasciitis, plantar fasciitis.
Yeah,
That's
that
the
was
big one.
if you have plantar fasciitis, if you have structural ankle, knee, and hip problems, if you have, nerve problems for numbness in the bottom of the peripheral nervous system, those are all things that are advertised as impossible to correct things. But we've found a solution for that. We have
Yeah.
things that can help you with that. And things that are effective and that work if you do the protocol every time with a 96% efficacy rating. It's going to do its job. And that's the amazing thing about this is when you work with science, when you work with not just an inductive guesswork, but a deductive, if you do this, it will work. You get to, if I shoot the arrow, it'll land on the target. Well, guess what? We rarely miss. And that's the goal of the technology. That's the goal of true medicine. I would say physics-based medicine at its heart is when I shoot that arrow, it lands in the target and it helps them.
Absolutely. And for those of you who have any type of scar, I know that Brendan spoke about this at the beginning. This is, to me, this is one of the reasons that your body is disruptive and you might feel pain. It's these scars. That's one of the first protocols that they do. We do, because I also work with Avazzia too, and sometimes I find myself helping people. It's that simple that even I can do it, and so I just want to encourage all of you that if you haven't done so already, get your tickets to the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Dys-Ease, because we're going to take you from discomfort to ease on November 1st, 2025, at the Space Coast Health Foundation in Rockledge, Florida. Brendan will be one of our featured speakers. He's going to also be in that room, in that treatment room where everybody wants to hang out. Everybody wants to just be a part of that feeling of joy. I've seen lots of miracles with frequency, with Avazzia, with PEMF. I've seen so many miracles, and I know we're going to have so many on that day. That's what makes the energy, that frequency be so high when we come together. Any final words before we go, Brendan?
No, I look forward to seeing everyone there at the event. I'll be there. I'll be speaking. I'll be happy to swap information and exchange and educate as much as I can.
Perfect. Thank you. You could have been anywhere, but you're here today. So thank you so much. For those of you who want to learn more about First Alternative Therapies, you can just click the link in your blog. And if you're not subscribed, then subscribe to the website so that you too will know who's in the classroom at any time. Please remember to get your tickets in. If you want a free tickets, get your name in the winner's basket. Text me at 407-373-5959. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lily McDermott and Brendan Legel wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. Love this. I love this class.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.